Load it up, Carl. This shit feel like game 7. Put lines up through my S's. Wake up in the morning, count my blessings.
Welcome to the Money Down. We got Taylor Kyles kicking with us tonight, the lead NFL analyst for CLNS, and all these different networks, media network, all these different networks in the New England area, all these abbreviations. They got me all messed up. Appreciate you kicking it with us, man.
And it messes me up too sometimes, but no, I'm happy to be on, fellas.
Yes, sir. So what kind of leads you into the sports media market? I know everybody has their different ways of getting into it. You know, maybe you played sports growing up, or you're just an avid fan. What led you to being a beat writer and the lead analyst there at the CLNS Media Network?
Yeah, it's kind of a funky story, honestly. So I'm from New York, but I actually started going to boarding school in New England when I was in 7th grade. Everybody loves sports here, but specifically football. I started playing to try to toughen myself up. Like, I'm a little scrawny beanpole kid. And, just hearing about the Patriots all the time, the media here can be very harsh.
Yeah.
So, I would hear some criticism. And I'm like, this team just won a game. Why is everybody mad? I don't understand. So that kind of just made me want to understand the game a little better, do my research, and really started a Twitter account, kind of put my thoughts all on there. Said a lot of dumb stuff as well, but, all the what the hell's going on. And I was really lucky. I got opportunities at SB Nation with Pat's Pulpit. They gave me a shot to start writing. And then I was kind of working with them, doing my writing stuff on the side. Was lucky enough, kind of towards the end of the pandemic, to get an opportunity with the NFL Network and Next Gen Stats. So that was really my first real opportunity in terms of getting to do it kind of for a living. So I was there for a couple seasons. Then CLNS Media made me an offer to be able to cover the team full time. And, I was doing it in my free time constantly anyway. So it kind of seemed like it made sense to, be able to do what I was already doing in my free time while working at the NFL and actually get paid for it. So I just got very, very fortunate.
Yeah. So the name of our podcast is called The Money Down. And we know Money Down's going to apply to anything, life, sports. So what was the money down for you that kind of got you into sports media, or just in general, just like, I got to figure it out?
Honestly, the pandemic, to be really real with you. It was kind of, I feel like it happened for everybody a different way. But that was kind of when, I just gotten out of school, which not great timing, kind of realized that opportunities were drying up. I worked as a receptionist at a place that did wedding venues, and not sound like a jerk, because I'd gone to school for journalism and I was trying to get into that. I remember I applied and my boss was like, "Why are you here? This doesn't, we'd love to have you, but we don't understand what, is going on here." So, doing that every day, just something I didn't love. When I knew I had a passion for something else, I would be at work, and anytime it was slow, I'm doing football, tweeting stuff out, just trying to interact with more people that can just help make me smarter. And really just understanding that wasn't what I wanted to do with my life, and just continuing to work. And I wish there was, some eureka moment, really. Obviously, the opportunities were what changed things for me. But really, it was just every single day, being passionate about something and working hard, and sometimes, putting in hours when it wasn't always convenient, but just having that thirst for knowledge and wanting to get better. So again, the pandemic really put everything into perspective when things kind of got tough for everybody. So yeah, I'd say that was my money down.
And what advice would you give to a young person, or even an older person that wants to get into the sports media market? I know we had somebody ask on Twitter. They applied to be in the Patriots media market, I think 4 times or so, haven't gotten into it. So what advice would you give to somebody like that?
One, I would say start, honestly. And, some people may have been doing this for a while, but at the same time, you have to really start somewhere and have that thirst for knowledge, be humble, understand that you're not going to get things right. But if you're going to put your thoughts out there, make sure that you are open-minded enough that when people are trying to give constructive criticism, there's a lot of jerks out there. So you don't have to take crap from everybody. But, when people are saying something trying to help out, really to listen. And also just, I think your personality in this media space is huge, because I'm not going to lie. A lot of the reason I think I've had the success I've had is because I've been pretty transparent, and I've tried to, let some of myself into my work, because I make a lot of mistakes. If I tried to be Mr. Professional all the time, I would look crazy. And, we're just understanding where my strengths and weaknesses were, being able to make a joke sometimes out of the things that I was struggling with, but also, like I said, have that open mind to try to get better, but really to be authentic and to try to let people know, the stick to football crap. I don't adhere to that. If I have something I'm passionate about, I let people know. I try to be straightforward. If I think that, there's some things going on in the world I'm not very happy about, and I have something to say about it at the time, I'll say it. And you can see my background here. If you can't, I'm pretty big on TV shows and movies and stuff like that. And I'm not the only one. There's a reason these are billion-dollar industries. So, just time House of the Dragon's on or The Boys drops, I'll give my little take and everything. Yeah. And it's fun. You get to actually network and learn more about people. I've made so many connections from people who were just like had a thought on something I said, or again, tried to correct me and help me see things in a different way. I kind of had to humble myself and be like, you know what, that was actually really helpful. Let me kind of rethink what I do. So it's that openness, it's that being transparent and just trying to not take yourself too seriously. And I'm going to watch this back and tell all this to myself because I don't listen to somebody else trying to do those things.
You mentioned being a big TV guy, big TV show guy. Like, what's your top 3 TV shows that you've been watching recently or currently watching? Like, what's your go-tos?
So I actually am watching the morning show. It was a bad idea. It's a pretty heavy show, but it's incredibly great and very well acted. I watched the finale before the show and I was like, damn, that was a bad call. But that's a really good show. The Boys, hard to top The Boys right now. They're doing great stuff. And what's my third show? I want to say The Acolyte, but I'm not going to lie. It's disappointing me pretty bad right now. I tried to give it a chance. I don't know what they're doing necessarily right now. It's not great. But third, honestly, I'm going to go with YouTube, the Philip DeFranco show. Okay. I'm not a big news guy, but he does a really great job of kind of breaking it down in a way that you can listen to it in the background and still get a lot of good information. And he's really funny. And he's someone that I've looked up to a lot in my journey. So not a TV show, but Philly D, man, he's been at it for a while. He's one of the best.
See me, I'm not a big TV dude, so a lot of the stuff you were saying, I don't know much. But I gotta start tapping into some of the TV shows and really breaking it down. I see a lot of people on Twitter saying a lot of different stuff. I got to get reeled in. I haven't been reeled into something since like Game of Thrones or Stranger Things, stuff like that.
You got to get into anime, bro. I don't know if that's
right. A lot of people, that's scary because it's just get in and then watch for 3 years.
Anime's tough, bro. Anime's tough. I've been big on anime recently.
I got to start something. I see a lot of people raving about the anime. I haven't tapped into. I got to check that out. But we got to check into your breakdown, man. We saw a little roster breakdown to the Patriots. Your kind of guess of, who's going to play a big role on the team, who will play like an elite role player, who's on the bubble, that type of thing. Like, how long did it take you to come up with that breakdown? Like, where does that come from? Because I see you do the film breakdown too, because that's not easy for somebody who, hasn't played in the NFL. So where did this breakdown come from?
Yeah, so I actually probably should have mentioned I did do scouting. I was an intern for Syracuse for a couple years. So that's kind of how I have some idea of how they kind of break these tiers down. Definitely shout out to them. But also just doing research. Like, I wanted a better idea of what the roster looked like because you got depth charts all over the place, but I wanted to try my hand at actually putting together, all right, this is where the roster stacks up. This has taken me 2 or 3 years. I think I just changed the grading scale a couple weeks ago. It's always shifted. I'm trying to find what's most fair. High-end role players, that was something I didn't really have, but I felt for guys like Godshaw and Anthony Jennings, who they don't do a lot of pass rushers or coverage guys necessarily, but they are elite run stoppers. So I wanted to make sure I was showing them their love. I'm constantly tweaking, working on this thing. Like I said, I make a ton of mistakes. I'll usually post it, have somebody point out a couple errors, then have to fix them. But I think right now we should be set. I'm pretty sure it's locked in right now.
I was gonna say, you ever have any players reach out to you like, hey man, this ain't looking right?
I put a lot of thought into these, honestly, because I want to be fair. If anybody had anything to say, I'd be able to back it up, and I am more than happy. Like Judon, I get crap for that one all the time. And I'm like, hey, he's older, he's coming off an injury. If he plays well, I will happily adjust my rankings. These are by no means set in stone. This is just kind of what I have to go by, with what's happening right now. It won't be nice.
Speaking of Judon, you go ahead. So you get
so that was gonna be my next question, right? Speaking of Drew, we had him on here a couple weeks ago. Mm-hmm. We are huge fans of him on the Money Down. I seen over this past weekend, right? He sent out a tweet. I know that kind of sent the bombshell through Pats Nation. I'm seeing good things. I'm seeing people saying, let him walk. I'm seeing people say we need him and pay him. So just kind of give us your thoughts on that whole contract situation and what's going on around him.
So it's tough because I understand, given his age and injury history, when you look at the players the Patriots have extended, that are either 30 or going to be 30, it's Hunter Henry and David Andrews. And both of those guys, they've been captains, probably will be captains again. And you project they're probably going to play every play as long as they physically can. Yeah. But Judon, you can't really say the same necessarily because Anthony Jennings is a guy who I think is really going to cut into his snap count. So in their defensive scheme, it's, James, as you know, it's very multiple. So you got guys like Dietrich Wise and Keon White who can put their hand in the dirt and be more of those defensive ends. Then you got the outside linebackers, where last season when Judon went down, Anthony Jennings killed it on early downs, like one of the best run stoppers in the NFL, not even just this position, as basically a part-time player. And then Joshua Uche, obviously, he's saying that he thinks in DeMarcus Covington's scheme, he'll be able to fit more and maybe hopefully get back to 2022. So those are two guys right there at that outside linebacker spot that are going to be cutting into his snaps. If Keon White takes a step forward, then maybe you use him because he's kind of like a Dietrich, Matt Judon kind of hybrid there. So I think Judon's still very valuable, especially on those passing downs. I think that's where he's going to make most of his impact. And he's one of their only every down outside linebackers. It's him and Keon White if he takes that step forward. So he's very valuable in their scheme. But at the same time, with the age, with the injury concerns, if he wants like an extension, I'd love to see it personally. He's amazing in the locker room, great teammate and all that. But it's a business. We all know it's a business. So I think it's hard to justify, with all the young guys that you have, maybe keeping around long term if he wants more money. But if it's guarantees, kind of like I'm in the same boat with Godshaw, if they just want some security, considering they're older players who could just lose time if they go down, I get that. Give them some money up front that they know they have. But extensions are tough, man, with the age and just kind of the situations at their spots.
Yeah, tough. I feel like they gotta keep Judon. He just that guy, man.
That president, he's a vet. Yeah.
I'm not anti-Judon by any stretch of the imagination.
No,
especially if he's watching this.
You probably gonna take a look, but Judon just one of them people, right? Like you talk about all the time, James, locker room guys. Like James, you was that guy. You know what I'm saying, on the offense side of the ball, right? Like people that'll take a young guy under his wing, show him the ropes, get him up to speed so that, you named a whole bunch of young guys that could potentially step in and play a key impact in this season. I think Judon is the perfect person to, kind of give them that guideline. And you can never go wrong with pass rushers in the league. Let's just call it spade a spade, right? Like
100%.
You gotta have it's to the point where you used to have 2 or 3. Now your whole D line gotta be damn near elite at pass rushing, right, to win. So I hope it all works out, man. Because like I said, we all huge fans of Judon on here. Locker room guy, somebody that can bring a spark, bring an energy, and
elite.
You know what I'm saying, we love to see red sleeve in that Patriots blue.
That's the thing, Lee. The energy, I think, especially with all the transition going on, the energy that he brings, like the impact that he has on it, even on the fans. You know what I'm saying? I don't think he would get traded or anything like that, but if he did, I feel like that may piss the fans off just a little bit because he's that guy, man. He really brings the juice, like he said, the sack celebration, getting guys ready in the locker room with his boom box and everything. Like I feel like he's a focal point, on that team right now. He's one of those guys, and I feel like that's a reason to extend him as well. You can't be, just letting some of these guys, these top dogs that's in the locker room, just keep walking out because it's hard to maintain that culture.
I understand that, but at the same time, like they're extending a lot of people.
Yeah, they are.
They are.
10 guys, and leadership like Jelani Tavai was one. He missed minicamp and the spring practices. If he were healthy, I would have been standing on the table. Make sure this guy's around long term. He's tough. He does so much for that defense, that adjust to role where he can move back and forth. And again, Judon, like he's a different cat. I'm not acting like they could replace him. It's just tough when you are like, where do you draw the line? That's basically my only thing is when you give all these extensions, at some point you got to make the hard decisions and be like, we can't give it to everybody. And again, I think he's going to be 32 this year. It's just, I hate this. I really don't like this. If I were just a fan, I would just be, I wouldn't even think about this, but I'm a reporter, so you gotta see it from all sides.
You gotta spend money, and it's a business, 100%, y'all boys. But bro, you gotta spend the money. You know what I'm saying? Like I be seeing a lot of teams, the Cowboys in that situation. Like where you make all this bread, right? Get these people that if you want to win, you know what I'm saying? Like it used to be where you could set yourself up a year or two to try and really contend. But now you got so many teams that are spending the bread, that are bringing in players where it's kind of like a win now league. It is a win now league. Like, because Philly, I'm just saying, Philly spending money, they're going to always be in that situation. You know what I'm saying? Like 49ers, we keep saying like, bro, how in the hell
they keep extending
it? Where they finding that cheese?
Where they finding the cheese from? But those are the teams that are in the conversation every single year. So I think if New England wants to get back into what it was, and obviously it's a difference now, right? Like back then, Bill kind of real conservative, not really.
They didn't need to back then,
right? And not cutting the check, but it's a whole different regime and it's a whole different, I guess, like blueprint now. So that's why I think Judon is so important. That you got to keep a guy like that in the locker room, as well as with the changes that are going on in the organization. I think he is that centerpiece that'll keep everything together.
And I don't think you're wrong. And the only thing is, again, like because this is a rebuilding roster, you want Judon there, especially because that defense is going to be the lifeblood of this team.
You think it's a rebuilding roster?
I think, it kind of has to.
Yeah,
I think there's a lot of young pieces. Like offensively, I'm more excited about them than a lot of people are because I think when you look at the guys that they got from the past couple of years, Pop, Polk, Baker, being able to grow up with Drake Maye, and then you got young pieces like Caden Wallace, like City So, like Layden Robinson. Like I'm excited about what this team could be in like 2 or 3 years where they've all had so much time together. And I think they're also a bunch of dogs who are going to put the work in. But realistically, the Patriots are going to compete. Like they are not going to roll over and be like, oh, yeah, I guess we're going to give the season up. Like that's crazy.
For sure.
But at the same time, the organization understands, I think, that they aren't close, right? And they kind of admitted it, that they know they're not contending for a Super Bowl this year. That makes it harder, I think, to justify paying an older guy when there are so many young pieces. Like the veterans, we've seen them extend, resign. Those are the guys that are in their, mid, late 20s that are going to be cores, throughout Drake Maye's first contract pretty much. But Judon might not necessarily be that guy in 2 seasons when they really are competing and maybe Drake Maye gets clicked and his guys are firing all cylinders. So I agree, man. Like everything that he brings, it's not like I'm encouraging Judon to be gone. It's just tough because the Patriots aren't the 49ers. They aren't the Cowboys. They aren't the Eagles. They're not really in a spot where you're like, oh yeah, I could see them in the Super Bowl or deep in the playoffs. That's just not who they are right now. They
haven't announced Drake Maye as like the certified starter yet, right?
No. Jacoby right now.
It's Jacoby. Okay. Yeah. I guess I got a 2-part question for you. In your opinion, who you starting for week 1 of the season as of from what you've seen? I know it's still early, going through camps and things like that. Who would you start first week of the season? And then for 2, who are some of your, favorite off-season signings or some of your least off-season signings? And do you think that they've equipped Drake Maye enough to be able to have some success this season?
So, I mean, me personally, I'd start Drake, but that's a crazy answer because I don't think they should. Realistically, I think the smart move right now, based on the limited information we have, is to start Jacoby. He was the most consistent. He knows this offense like the back of his hand. I think it would be irresponsible to throw Drake Maye in where he is right now. Okay. That said, the flashes he's shown, man, like there was a practice where he was just like the quick game, especially because we all know he could chuck it deep. We're all wondering, can he be in Alex Van Pelt's quick game and can he, be consistent throwing underneath? He was putting passes, and there were guys, the defenders draped on receivers. He's putting them where only his guys can get it. There's a play against cover 2 where he pumped the underneath defender to get him to move, then threw it back shoulder to the receiver to throw him open. And you can tell it's happening so fast. It's like he's not thinking about this. This is impulse. Yeah. And that kind of talent that he has that's innate that I don't think people talk about a lot, on top of the physical talent, I think he starts at some point this year because he's going to be torching that defense in practice by at least midseason. They're going to be like, yo, we all love Jacoby. This rookie's kicking our ass. Like we got so Jacoby right now, but I do think Drake Maye has the talent to maybe start week 1 if he has a great summer. I'm talking like outstanding summer. Yeah. But at some point this season, I do think the talent's going to speak for itself. In terms of off-season acquisitions, if we're talking about signings, I really liked Antonio Gibson. Yeah. I think the things he can do out of the backfield, like James, I mean, no one did it like you. Your consistency was whole different level.
Sweet feet.
All respect. But Gibson, just because he's got that receiver background where like you can legitimately line him up anywhere. He can run any route. It's just a different kind of skill set you don't see, especially for a guy who's 240 pounds.
Yeah,
like,
he's big. I never realized how
it's crazy. That dude running a 4-3, you got a linebacker on him. He's gone. So I really like Antonio Gibson. I feel like people didn't really pay enough attention to that signing. Kind of sneaky one, Armon Watts from the Steelers. Yeah. He's an interesting guy. I think you can literally play him all over the defensive line. Disruptive, kind of fits what they've been doing more recently, where you saw them move on from Lawrence Guy. I feel like that's a signal that they're trying to get guys. They said they want a better pass rush. I think, and this is also why Godchaw's situation scares me, I think they want the dual threat guys where Daniel Equale, Jeremiah Farms, those guys can give you both. Like they're legit as pass rushers and they can give you some run defense. But if you're going to sacrifice some run defense or pass rush, you'll do that in this league. I think Armon Watts gives you a little bit of both. And then Sione Takitaki, man. Awesome guy. Really fun to talk to. And he gives you kind of that Jelani Tavai where he can play on the line, play off. He's tough. He'll engage blockers, or he can make a miss, and he's smart in coverage. Not, no Fred Warner, but he knows where he's got to get, and I think he's good at reading quarterbacks. So those are just some guys that they got that they didn't have before that I think are going to play key roles on this team and be pretty exciting to watch.
Taki, he's in Cleveland. He's definitely a spark player to me.
For sure.
Splash play. So
I like that
signing this offseason. OTA doesn't mean everything. You only get to see a limited amount, as a reporter watching the practices. But was there anybody that stood out to you, during the practice, especially during minicamp when you got to check out the entire practice?
We only got to see him really pop off one time because I think he got hurt and then missed some time. But Javon Baker, he's someone I've been ringing that bell since the draft process. Like, he's got some things he's got to work on, needs to be more consistent. That dude's different. There were two or three passes along the sideline. They threw it to him deep, and he had a guy right on his hip, made crazy adjustments. One, you can see him like contorting his body to get the 2 feet in. Like, they haven't had a true X receiver in a long time. Like that true, hey, we're putting you on an island, beat somebody consistently. I think Javon Baker's that guy. I feel like if he can really establish himself as that X, this is going to be an offense that people are going to respect more than I think they're anticipating. And then Jalen Polk as well. It's exciting. You got the 2 young receivers. I mean, dude, he does the job. He catches so well. He's got incredible hands, arrogant hands where it's always like there's no alligator arms. He's going out as much as he can, trying to high point, extending when he needs to. It just looks effortless. And he just seems like a guy who he's not the best separator right now, but he'll get open enough. And if you put in his area code, he's going to come down with it. Yeah. And also, this isn't really, obviously, you don't see this in springs. There's no contact. But you watch his college tape, this dude's blocking linebackers. He's blocking edge defenders. He's blocking defensive tackles. He's crazy. He is crazy. There's one where there was a safety coming downhill at him full speed. He's just waiting like, all right, give me what you got. Dude strikes him, he takes it on, and then gets in his face after. I was just like, oh,
real deal.
That's what you love as running back like that. That's what I want block.
They give me that kind of running back mentality, I feel like. So, obviously, that'll endear them. They're also really good blockers. So, I think Patriots fans can get excited about their young receivers.
So, TK, I got a question for you, right? Cover a lot of the NFL. Who is a back in the league, not just for the Patriots, back in the league that remind you of I Got Sweet Feet?
Oh, that's tough. Yeah,
I know. I got to put you on the spot, man. Run it down. Got to put you on the spot.
I would want to go with, it's not fair. It's not fair. But I think Austin Eckler's kind of in that mold, kind of toward the tail end of his career. We talk about consistency, pass protection especially. Like, that's one area where obviously, there was a player the Patriots got towards the end of last season who I think didn't see the field because I don't think he could pick up the blitz pickup necessarily. But Eckler just being an underneath option, being able to give you more than that as well. Consistent runner if you need him to be. I know he said this year, like, hey, I'm not that dude. Like, don't give me 400. Right, but just like reliable, smart, great teammate, things like that. Someone you just want on your team, period. More than just a skill set, but also, being a leader and someone who can hold himself and others accountable. I feel like it's got to be Austin Eckler. But I'm sure I'm missing somebody, and I'm going to watch this later and get pissed off that I didn't say it.
Now let's have a word from our presenting sponsor, Prize Picks. With Prize Picks, you can win $1,000 by only betting 10. And it only takes you about 60 seconds to get your bets locked in. All you got to do is go to prizepicks.com or download the Prize Picks app and bet over or under on some of your favorite athletes' stat projections this summer. And when you use our promo code MONEYDOWN, Prize Picks will match up to $500 on your first deposit. I repeat, use our promo code MONEYDOWN and Prize Picks will match up to $500 on your first deposit. You can bet small and win big prizes. So speaking of the receiving course, I had somebody, tweet at me, is there still a potential chance that the Patriots kind of make a trade for that receiver one, or you think they're just going to roll with the young talent, the guys that are on the roster, or maybe like an Ayuk or if a CeeDee Lamb somehow becomes on the market, you think they would be interested in any guy like that?
I think they'll do their due diligence. like CD and Ayuk are the two guys where I'm like, if you're going to trade for somebody, it's got to be them. And I really do think they say they're a draft and develop team, and they got young guys who can contribute right away. Jalen Polk, I think, is going to start for you, whether Kendrick Bourne's healthy or not. I think he can be one of those guys. Really, it's Baker for me is the only one where I'm like, all right, can he be the X? If not, then maybe you get like an Ayuk and you play a lot of condensed splits so he can get the whole route tree, or you get CD, put him all over the place. But I think they're going to stick with what they got, unless they go into the summer and just like no one's separating, nobody's making plays. And when people were making plays, it was the young guys. Even Kayshon Boutte, I'll throw his name in there too. Yeah. So realistically, I can't see him trading for anybody. I think they're going to trust what they have in-house, trust their coaching. And, especially this is going to be a really run-heavy team where you're hoping you're not just dropping back without the threat of the run or anything very often. So, yeah, I think they're going to stick with their guys unless it's like an emergency situation where they really got to make some kind of move.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, being around as long as you have you seen any differences between, the previous coaching staff under Bill Belichick and now under Mayo? Have you seen a lot of process differences in terms of like who you're looking for, who you're looking to pick up, trades, things like that?
Process, yeah. I mean, we talked about it. They're keeping people, which is kind of unheard of. The last time they had given I think it was top 4 round pick, a second contract was Deron Harmon. That's crazy to think about.
That's crazy.
And I know everyone's like, oh, they're talking about how Bill's building the team, but they're re-signing all his picks. It's like, one, no one questioned Bill's ability to build a defense. Sure. Like we obviously last season they lose Judon and Christian Gonzalez, and they're still top of the league type of unit. So, the defense is fine, but offensively, I think we saw one, they were just missing whatever they were looking for. It never felt like they were picking a receiver, and you were like, makes perfect sense. There was always some kind of, I don't get it. Now, especially with Drake Maye, the fact that they got Polk and Baker, two guys who really fit his skill set, and they don't seem like they were crazy reaches either. Like, it was pretty much like, yeah, I understand picking them there. That's one. I don't know if they picked Drake Maye if Bill was running things, to be honest. I feel like Bill would try to get, some kind of draft haul and say, hey, we're building for the future. We need more pieces. Whereas this regime was like, yeah, no. We ain't trading back. I'll tell you, I was sweating because I'm like, this guy is – I really think he was – like him and Caleb were different, but I think they were the best QBs in the draft. I think it was like a gap personally. I really think Drake Maye has like top 10, top 5 potential if he reaches his ceiling. And I'm just like, if you get fired for choosing Drake Maye – it is what it is. Like, you gambled on crazy upside, especially getting to like talk to him and getting to know more about him and his background and his family. Like the temperament you want from a franchise quarterback, I think. Like he always talks about keeping the main thing, brought his brothers and his girlfriend on stage when he got drafted. Like this is a dude who values loyalty, works hard, holds people accountable. Like I was just pleased, like do not like take the fool's gold when you got Kevin, who's the Vikings head coach, Kevin O'Connell, and Brian Daboll, two guys who know quarterbacks. If they give you a haul for a quarterback, that quarterback might be pretty good. Again, I feel like Belichick might have tried to trade and get more picks, but this regime stayed pat and got their guys. So, one, extending people, I think a better job of acquiring wide receivers through the draft, and then staying pat and getting Drake Maye, I feel like are signs that they're really going in a different direction.
You know what's so crazy? So I don't know, James might have changed his mind. But pre-draft, me and James were huge on Marvin, right? So if we could just, rewind time back and you was the GM of the Patriots, how do you feel about the need to address the quarterback situation or drafting a generational Pops Hall of Famer, top 10? I mean, however you want to, I'll say top 10. Obviously, I mean, depends on whoever, but top 10 receiver in the league. How would you feel, especially the need of the Patriots needing a true number one receiver? How would you have handled that situation?
I would say, how often do you see a wide receiver without a very good quarterback carry their team deep into the playoffs? How often do you see a great quarterback take, fine talent and get them deep into the playoffs? I feel like quarterbacks do it a whole hell of a lot more than receivers do. And I know in this game, you want to get that great receiver with a great, maybe even good quarterback, and that'll get you pretty far. But I think we see, and I really hate talking crap about Tua, but I feel like he's frankly a good example where you have Tyreek Hill. Like I think if you had Josh Allen in that offense, Madden numbers, like just
Joe
crushing everything. Because all through his gifts and everything he's good at, like, his anticipation's great. He's so good at throwing to the spot and, no looking guys. It's like, yeah, well, sometimes he'll do that and throw directly to a defender. And sometimes Tyreek Hill's wide open 70 yards downfield and he just can't physically get the ball to him consistently or do it in a way where, maybe Tyreek will catch it through somebody, but he could have scored a touchdown. Things like that where the quarterback, but at the same token, if you have a receiver who's like, okay, he'll make a contested catch, but he's not really that fast. It's just like Drake Maye, for example, is someone who's aggressive too. You don't want a quarterback who's usually going to take the low on a high low. You want the guy who's going for the home run and has that instinct. I think Drake is going to be that guy where it's like, all right, Polk doesn't have a ton of separation on this post, but that dude's on his hip, and I'm going to put it out in front of him and trust my guy to make a play. And I feel like that is going to get you a lot further than having one great receiver. Because, you can't take all great receivers out of the game, but you can do a whole hell of a lot to at least get somebody to look somewhere else. Yeah. And I think, there's a lot you can do to get rid of a receiver. There's not a whole lot you can do against a great quarterback when they're dialed in.
Yeah. I respect that. You're speaking of teams in the division, Dolphins, Jets, Bills, teams should be pretty good this year. Where do you feel like the Patriots sit, in this division? You got any bold predictions you think is it going to be tough on the Patriots this upcoming season? How competitive? How many games you think they win? What you thinking?
I still think they're fourth in the division. And I feel like I would just be like, I'd be blowing smoke. I feel like if I said anything else. Like, we haven't seen enough. I don't think, for me to say they're going to be better. But here's the thing. Here's the thing. The defense, like we saw it last season. They were in all but, I think, 2 or 3 of their games last year in the fourth quarter. Like the defense, I think, allowed 28 points 3 times the entire season. Like they were in all these games. The offense just could not do enough to not only get the ball in the end zone, but just to stay out of their own way, not commit turnovers and all the negatives and the things where it's like bare minimum, we cannot hurt ourselves. And they were still competitive, had so many chances to get in the end zone with the last possession or to take the game. Even when it came to the field goal kicker, sometimes there were games that were decided because they missed a field goal and extra point at one point or another.
Rookie had a tough year, man.
He got him Drake Maye, so I'm not mad at it. Honestly, towards the end of the season, I'm just like, stop. I everybody trying to win. I'm bad for you as people, but cut it out because we need some Drake Maye. But yeah, I do think though, because that defense is so good, I think the offense is average. And I think with Jacoby Brissett, he just isn't going to make the critical mistakes where it's like, we lost because of you. I think he can take advantage when opportunities are presented. If this run game can be top 10, and I really think with Mondre they can be, I think the offensive line for the most part has a lot of really good run blockers. If you can live through your defense and your run game, I think this is at least a 7-win team, and I do think they make a serious push to make the playoffs. Wild card team, obviously, but I don't think it's that – and really it's going to be incumbent for me on the young players like Baker, Polk, maybe Maye, Caden Wallace. If the guys you drafted, day 1, day 2 can come in and have legitimate roles where people at least have to think about them, that's where I really think they make the push instead of being 4 or 5-win team. This is kind of pushing maybe 9 games, maybe 8. That's really up there. I will say that. But again, I think with the defense, the run game, less toxicity behind the scenes as well, more stable. That's a huge thing that hurt this team. I really do think they can make a push for the playoffs.
I can respect that 7-8 games. I think that's where they're at, and I feel like every game they're going to compete in. It's not going to be many blowouts this year. I know Mayo, he's going to have the same type of mentality as Bill. It's going to be a little bit different, but I truly know those guys are going to compete 1,000%. And I think everybody there is not going to be in rebuild type mode. I don't think that's what Patriot football is all about. No Kraft ain't about that. Nobody's about that. So I think they're going to be extremely competitive. How many games? We don't know, but a 7 or 8, I can respect that too.
Is the schedule tough?
It's pretty tough.
Yeah.
I got some games where I'm just like,
let me pull that up right now.
What's crazy to me is, I don't think it's a rebuild year. And the only reason why I don't think so is because, bro, like you said, TK, the defense is so strong. I really can't think of a hole in the defense, maybe the linebacker group, but you got strong pass rushers. The secondary, bro, is off the charts, right? You can't really find, a hole. And you got a star corner, in my opinion, who, granted health, he could be, he's going to be in that, Pat Surtain, Sauce Gardner. He's going to be in that conversation. And he was well on his way last year. He just got derailed with some injuries. But, like you hinted on, if the offense can just be those 24-7, 24-17, 21, 21-14, kind of games where it's like you got to rely on your defense to come up with 1 or 2 stops, and you don't, like you said, you don't make the mistake to take you out the game. I see y'all being, honestly, I see, maybe, probably 2, bro, in the division. This is the year, if anything, right? If we're going off Buffalo, this is the time where they've been, as far as roster wise, might be slowing down a tad bit. We don't know how New York gonna look, right? Like,
we don't
Aaron
know.
coming off the Achilles.
They're talented though.
They're talented. Very.
They're talented as hell, man. Like, it's one of those teams, good defense.
I'm gonna give you them first 5 games. Bengals, Seahawks, Jets, 49ers, Dolphins, Texans. That's the first games. Straight out the gate.
My fault. So hold on. You said opening out the gate. They open up with the Bengals.
At the Bengals, yeah. At Bengals. Seahawks at home.
Seahawks, y'all can win.
Yeah, it can be done.
Seahawks,
you got Jets.
You can beat the Jets. You can beat the Jets.
You can beat the
Jets. Jets. Yeah, division game. Those always toss up. 49ers. Then Dolphins.
Yeah. Dolphins.
And then you got Texans too right after that. So
and the Texans, honestly, bro, think about it.
Yeah,
Texans is all we all just projecting, like, we think Houston gonna be good this year.
Yeah.
But like, that's all projection, bro. You don't know how that's got to come together, bro.
Yeah.
That's the thing. They got a good defense.
Yeah, they do.
Orion's doing the thing as well.
Very young.
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting. That's definitely a tough start. I will say that. And speaking of the Bengals, Joe Burrow, it was reported today, he kind of said that, or kind of put out there, the NFL should have 2 bye weeks. The Pro Bowl should be in the middle of the season. This can be for all y'all. How would y'all think, that will work? Should that happen? Because that 18-game schedule definitely coming, soon enough, probably next year or 2. So 2 bye weeks for sure should happen. But Pro Bowl in the middle of the year, I don't know how that would work. The season will be a little bit longer too as well. You get 2 bye weeks and the Pro Bowl in the middle. I mean, I know they're already talking about potentially, having the offseason, be pushed back some to where you just come in with a slow ramp up in the training game. So there's going to be a lot of changes soon. Do y'all think that could work with the Pro Bowl in the middle, 2 bye weeks?
Pro Bowl in the middle sounds like a recipe for disaster.
Yeah, bro.
Ain't nobody want to play.
Ain't nobody going to want to play. I mean, especially like depending on where your season is and stuff like that. Like, you don't want to risk guys getting hurt. And obviously they don't. It's not like, the Pro Bowl game is like full contact or anything like it used to be. I mean, I can see it if they still do like some of like the team skill things and whatnot. Like if they keep it, minimal, like not super competitive and whatnot. I could see it, but I don't think it's feasible, to be honest with you. I mean, I don't think guys are gonna want to do it, especially being mid-season. And we all know how much of a toll the season takes on your body, even with the bye weeks and things like that. Like, I mean, guys want to take every opportunity they can to like rest and relax when they get that opportunity. So. Nah.
You know what? I'm gonna go against the grain, man. I'm gonna say I kind of dig it. Like the Pro Bowl isn't what it used to be when we were kids, right?
It's not.
They're barely playing anyway. So just give them that week in the middle. I mean, obviously you're gonna have certain players that.
Yeah,
right,
coaches too gonna be in their ear.
But I'm saying coaches too, because you always. But every time you step out on that field, practice, game, you deem the risk of tearing, having an injury, tearing something anyway. So,
but would you rather have it at the stake of the Pro Bowl?
No, right.
You know what I'm saying?
No, for sure. But think about it. As of recently, have we had any injuries in the Pro Bowl? I'm just saying of the format that it's in now, right? Yeah. Like, I don't think you're ever gonna get players to have a full contact game for where it's like good for fans. It's competitive for fans, right? You get what I'm saying? So
yeah, but it's also at the end of the season, though. It's at the end of the season where guys ain't got to worry about having anything to do the following week. The Super Bowl teams are already, where they need to be. So it's like guys are chilling at that point. Like at this point, you're mid smack dab of the season.
So you might as well just scrap the Pro Bowl.
But I agree.
Go ahead, TK. You got it.
Well, just one other thing is. Football players are creatures of habit also. And it's not like the NBA where you have so many games that legitimately that feels more like a break and you kind of get to reset a little bit. Yeah. It's kind of like its own little bye. With football, I feel like bye weeks are one thing. Those are planned, those are schedules. Teams know what to do. When it comes to some kind of Pro Bowl event, I feel like that's just kind of too much where it might really start throwing people off their game a little bit because it's not just relaxing, spending time with your family, decompressing. It's still an event. Like that still takes some kind of toll out of you where you have to smile for the cameras and, do all that kind of stuff. I feel like it's something that kind of just throws a wrench that isn't what you're used to with the bye week. That's a whole different ball game. And I feel like that could really then you get a player or two on the same team that were in the Pro Bowl, then they come back and, maybe they just kind of lost some steam. I just feel like there's a lot of margin for error for a game like football where there aren't a lot of games and sometimes you need to get in some kind of rhythm and understand what's going to happen consistently. Whereas a Pro Bowl is just such a different beast than, again, just a regular bye week.
Yeah, I'm kind of on the fence with it too. I think it could be potentially very interesting. Maybe it could spark, kind of put a little bit more on the Pro Bowl. Maybe guys, I don't know how guys would feel about it. They had to take a poll on. I think Joe Burrow trying to have a NBA All-Star Weekend type thing. How the NBA, make it a whole scene. Everybody coming to town because it's different. There needs to be a change up when it comes to the Pro Bowl. I don't know, putting it in the middle of the year will spice it up some. But hey. I think some change is good when it comes to this Pro Bowl stuff because it definitely need to be completely different than what it is. I know the 7-on-7, it's whatever, the guys having fun, yada, yada, yada. But for the fans, I ain't going out there for that bullshit, man.
What if they did it and this is obviously hypothetical, not ever going to happen. What if they turned it into because obviously they want to get the fans, around the players and things like that with, whoever's been voted Pro Bowl and whatnot. And again, that's another thing. You voting on Pro Bowlers halfway through the season, you got that whole nother season. But on the flip side of that, you want to get the fans around the players and stuff like that. What if you turn it into not a charity event, but turn the Pro Bowl into a Play 60 event where they interact with kids and things like that. You sign autographs, enjoy, or you got all-time quarterback, things that are less risky, but also gets you in front of the community or wherever you're at and whatnot, and do events like that instead of competitive things. I mean, again, like you said, go ahead.
I love that idea. I love it. I don't think the NFL is going to love it because it doesn't sound like it's going to make them much money.
Man.
I know they care about the charities and all that.
We can do that the day before the game.
That's fair. Yeah, that's fair.
And I think, too, like you said, it all boils down to this with the league. You know what I'm saying? And I think just putting it in the middle of the year just for 1 year to just try and change it and see how it goes, you can't go wrong with it, bro. I think the NBA has done a lot of things like that as far as just trying out new formats. This past year, they had the in-season tournament. It worked out well for them. You get what I'm saying? So I just think the NFL is in a spot right now where we got the Pro Bowl situation. We got to figure it out. I don't know because it ain't. I don't even watch it no more. So I can let her know it's hard enough. It's too if you can't get fans and, people that's in the, media space to watch it. Like you said, for sure ain't no NFL players going out there to enjoy the weekend. Got to figure it out.
Got to. And being a reporter, you got to interact with coaches, players, everything. Have you had any unusual or awkward situations with any coach or players throughout your tenure? I'm sure it probably happened quite a few times.
I've only been on the beat a couple years, but I did have one with Bill. I had done really well, actually. Usually I feel like I asked good enough questions that he wouldn't give me a dirty look or the non-answer very often. But before the game in Miami, I was asking about Jalen Ramsey because he hadn't played yet. It was the first game that he was going to be active. Yeah. And people were saying, he's washed, he's trash. And I'm looking at his film from the Rams. I'm like, what are you talking about? Yeah. This dude is a dog. Not even just coverage-wise. He does everything. Yeah. I didn't understand. So I'm like, Bill Belichick loves great players. Let me, give him a freebie, give him a chance to talk about Jalen Ramsey. And I knew he was going to pull some bullshit. So I specifically was like, okay, so coach, I know he hasn't played this season, but based on, what you've seen from Jalen Ramsey from last season, what are you guys expecting? Is he still an impact player? Bill goes, he hasn't played all year.
I said that in the question.
I mentioned it specifically. And then what he'll do is he'll stop talking. And then you think it's done. So I tried to add on to it. And then he starts talking. So I'm talking over him. I'm just like, oh my God, I'm freaking out. It's my first year on the beat. I'm just like, I'm trying not to piss anybody off. And he just made me look like a jackass. But honestly, I've seen some other stuff in my short year, that was pretty tame, but that's probably as awkward as it's gotten where I'm just like, Bill, I know, don't make me look stupid. I'm trying to ask a good question. I'm trying to tee you up to talk football. It's what you love. And he wasn't really having it that day.
It's tough.
You ever had any situations where because I know for me, like when I did play, I used to hate, running into some reporters. I just talked to them, right? 30 minutes later, I check Twitter and it's a whole different story going on. So like, have you had any? So I'm just saying, how does it happen to sometimes have to fall on that grenade and tweet the stuff that that somebody's not gonna like when they see?
To be totally honest, man, I came up watching film, like being the guy who understands the game and tries to, make it palatable for fans. I'm not in this for breaking news. I'm sure at some point in my career that'll happen. That's not really my game, though, to be totally honest with you. Like, I'm not chasing a scoop. I'm not trying to, get this quote. Like, I honestly don't care. I understand there's value in that. And the Patriots beat is full of incredible reporters. Frankly, it's kind of allowed me to understand my niche, and you always want to get better and be more well-rounded. And I'm not trying to say like, hey, I'm sticking to my corner, because you get stale, you get boring that way. People get sick of you. I get sick of myself. I got ADHD. I can't do the same thing. But at the same time, even if it gets to that, I'm really not even in that sphere where I'm trying to tweet something out. If I do and I think it's going to be controversial, I will talk to the player and be like, hey, just so you understand, like Cole Strange, for example, he's obviously had a tough time in his career with injuries. And I've tried to go out of my way to understand, like, what has it been like for you? Everybody talks crap about you taking on bull rushes. Have you worked on it? And he's awesome. And players generally are pretty fantastic when they know that you have the right intentions and aren't trying to, put them on blast. Because that's not I want to advocate for the players as much as possible. If I think they're playing poorly, I want to understand why, if I'm going to critique them. So Cole, he was saying, yeah, man, like I put on extra weight this offseason. I did what I could, but you can't simulate a bull rush. There's not a whole lot of 350-pound dudes who are like, all right, I'm going to stand here, push me backwards. It's just not a thing you can simulate. And he was saying he missed so much time because he was recovering from surgery. He's like, you need chemistry with your teammates. Offensive line is so much about who you're next to. It's really difficult for you to be able to have that chemistry and perform well all the time, because he struggled early last season. And he was hard on himself. I felt bad for asking. I'm like, whoa, calm down. I'm sorry. Like, I know you're trying, but I think it's important to have that dialogue and let people understand what your intentions are. Otherwise, I don't know what you're doing in this business. I mean, I know what you're doing, but I don't.
My last question for you: where do you see yourself in the next, 5 or 10 years? What's your dream as far as sports media? Is it, having your own, type show on ESPN or a different network? Being the lead reporter. What is it for you?
It might be a cop-out, man, but I don't really think that far ahead. Because honestly, anything I've gotten, I just put my head down. I did what I was supposed to do. I worked hard, tried to push myself, add new things to my Rolodex, just be a decent person. I think is a big part of success in any industry. And really, it's like Cam said. It's like, do what you're supposed to do. The bag's going to take care of itself. Yeah. And I've been lucky enough that that's happened, where I do what I'm supposed to do and opportunities come and, different challenges. You got to take them on. So I have my dream job, man. I get to cover a team I grew up loving. I have friends on the beat who I get to spend time with and learn from, and people I looked up to, and, who kind of taught me what it was like to be a journalist and do it the right way and not the, scummy way where you're just trying to put people's laundry out there and all that stuff. Like, yeah. So for me, it's really just being able to continue to do this. If I get a new challenge down the road that I never expected, that's awesome. But I also want to make sure I can, have a good living and take care of my people. That's obviously that's the priority. And that's pushing me. To be very honest, it's just, new things in life. How can I pay for this? And how can I make sure I'm holding it down and doing my part? But really, man, I have my dream job. I'm very happy. I just want to keep it pushing and, just keep trying to be the best version of myself.
100%. I can respect that all day long. Appreciate you, Taylor, for kicking it with us tonight. You're dope human being. Keep up the great work. I said we love people like you that are in the media industry. You actually go to the tape, break it down. You speak real. You're not just fabricating stuff. So definitely appreciate the work you're putting in. Make sure y'all check out my guy on CLNS. I got it right this time. Make sure you check him out. It's on Twitter too as well. He has some great content out there. We appreciate you.
Appreciate you, big dog.
My family, every song I ever wrote. This shit feel like game 7. Put lines up through my S's.